It was a slave-owning, genocidal country. When I look at my own country, the United States, it is a semi-democratic, white-dominated, hierarchical, racist society that aims to preserve privilege by the elites. That's how it was formed in 1787. It was a slave-owning, genocidal country, killing Native Americans for a white culture. But amazingly, it still looks that way, although we're much more diverse now than we were. The most violent country in the world in the 19th century, by far, was perhaps the most democratic or second most democratic, and that was Britain. You can be democratic at home and ruthlessly imperial abroad. The most violent country in the world since 1950 has been the United States. It's been by far involved
Jeffrey,
in more,
stop
wait,
now.
in more
Let's,
wars.
Jeffrey, I'm your moderator, and it's enough.
Okay, I'm done.
All right, Shalom. There's the brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and a sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word, in all truth and in sincerity. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 6 and verse 9, and it reads, Esau represents the end of this age, and Jacob represents the beginning of the new age. All right, and I want to go into a lesson inspired by the Jeffrey Sachs clip you saw from his seminar or his panel speaking. All right, and I want to go into how it relates to prophecy. All right, because we've witnessed in our lifetime through the Spirit the most violent empire the world has ever seen. All right, and the reason I say it that way is because no other empire before this one was able to conquer as much and still maintain it. And they've maintained it through violence. Okay, and I want to show how it relates to prophecy because Esau represents the end of an age. And Jacob represents the beginning of it that followeth, beginning with the one they ignorantly call Jesus, whose name is Yahweh Shai. Jacob's rulership is synonymous with the Messiah's rulership. The Messiah ushers in the rulership of Jacob, which will never be taken down or destroyed because it is truly his kingdom. Now, prophecy shows us that Esau would have rulership before the Messiah returned. And we're going to go into the blessing that was given to Esau and how it points out that the so-called white man as he's known today, his biblical nationality is Esau Edom. All right, so this is Genesis 25 and 22. All right, and this is dealing with Rebekah. All right, matter of fact, I'm going to start up at 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over, like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. Now keep in mind, the elder shall serve the younger. Esau came out first. So when we go to the blessing, all right, the blessing is a fulfillment of this prophecy, if you will. When you see Isaac give the blessing to Jacob, who disguised himself as Esau. All right, and you're going to see what blessing Esau got after the fact. All right, now let's continue. This is Genesis 27. I'm going to jump down to the blessing that was given to Jacob first. All right, so let's start at 18. And he came unto his father and said, My father. And he said, Here am I. Who art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. Now, when you read up for context, all right, Isaac was his intention was to bless Esau without realizing that Esau had sold his birthright to Jacob. All right, not only that, we just read the prophecy of the elder serving the younger. All right, so Rebekah disguised Jacob. All right, and this is Jacob amongst his father Isaac, and he's about to receive a blessing. All right, so let's read this blessing. All right, verse 19, and Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac said unto his son, How is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord thy God brought it to me. And Isaac said unto Jacob, Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not. And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy as his brother's Esau's hands. So he blessed him. And he said, Art thou my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat. And he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said unto him, Come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field which the Lord hath blessed. Therefore the Most High give thee of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be every one that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he also had made savory meat, and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, Let my father arise and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly, and said, Who? Where is he that hath taken venison, and brought it to me? And I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him. Yea, and he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and hath taken away thy blessing. And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. Now, I wanted to go through all of that to point out the blessing that was given to Jacob, which is ultimately the dominion. And it's going to be realized with the return of the one they ignorantly call Jesus, whose name is Yahushai. But what Isaac gave Esau was a temporary blessing of rulership. And that temporary rulership would be ruled through violence. All right. This is why in Revelation, when you deal with the beast whose deadly wound was healed, you're dealing with the revived Roman Empire. That is where we exist and live in today. All right. It is a fashion of that beast whose deadly wound was healed. All right. This is why you have Roman numerals. All right. The court system in Latin, a political system that mirrors the Roman system with the Senate and a president. All right. When you deal with the two classes, all right, or the two parties, political parties. All right. Back in Rome, it was the plebeians and the patricians. And now you have the Democrats and the Republicans. So this is that revived Roman Empire. And we know that the Roman Empire was ruled by the so-called white man. All right. What started, with Alexander the Freak, matured into that Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was taken down for a short space. All right. That space of 1,000 years. And then they returned with the Renaissance or the rebirth. And it was basically that deadly wound being healed from that beast. All right. So let's go here. This is Revelation 13:3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. All right. So that deadly wound was the Roman Empire being taken down. As a matter of fact, let's start up at 1. It says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And what we witness on the political stage, on the world stage, is, the world basically following after the Babylon the Great, which is America, but the Western system in general. All right. This beast system. All right. When you deal with EU and NATO. All right. And the horde that sitteth upon that beast. That is the EU NATO system, with America being on the captain of the ship, so to speak. As far as the nations are concerned. Now, we know behind the scenes, the elites are controlling things. All right. But concerning prophecy, the woman that sits on the beast is America. And that beast itself is the EU NATO system, which is used by America as a vehicle to enforce its power. So everything that Jeffrey Sachs described, all right, was first described in the scriptures. All right, the scriptures described a system, all right, a rulership, all right, that would be violent, all right, but eventually it will be taken down, all right. And when we go back to Genesis, we understand through the Spirit that the marking of the end times would be Esau's rulership. His rulership will mark the last empire before the kingdom of heaven. All right, and the so-called white man has ruled, particularly in the West. All right. And has spread themselves, all right, throughout the world with garrisons and military bases and all over the planet. Between 700 and 800 military bases. That is a sign. That is a telltale sign of who has dominion and rulership on the earth. All right. When you remove the covering cast of describing people as white and black, or as Russian and American and German, and you deal with biblical nationalities, it is obvious, all right, that Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, has dominion on the earth at this point. All right. Now, the Roman Empire was taken down and that deadly wound was healed. And we seen the healing of it with the Renaissance period or the rebirth. All right. And this is basically a continuation, a revived Roman Empire. All right. So when we continue, it says verse 4, and this is a telltale sign. It says, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And this shows you who has been the most violent, powerfully violent nation on the planet. All right. In these last 100 or so years. All right. It's been the so-called white man without question. And now we're starting to see what? Shameful spewing upon his glory. All right. Because Jeffrey Sachs speaks from a political stage. So he'll say the Americans, the British. All right. But when you actually understand it from a biblical standpoint, you understand that according to prophecy, Esau would have this dominion and he would have to maintain his dominion with the sword. And that's exactly what the so-called white man has done in this day and age. His power is maintained through the sword and through lies. And when the lies don't work, he goes with his primary weapon, which is the sword. All right. But now we have shameful spewing upon his glory. And even his own people are calling him out. But it's only with the prophets, beginning with our apostles and elders, where you get the biblical understanding of what's happening on the world stage. All right, this is Habakkuk 2. And let's start at 4. It says, behold, his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. And you see that through the EU NATO system. If he doesn't straight on attack you with violence, he'll attack your economy by giving you sanctions. Neither keepeth at home, meaning he has all of these military bases, which are garrisons stationed in everybody else's land to maintain his power and influence. All right, continuing, it says, shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. And you see that happening with the so-called Russians, the so-called Chinese, all right, the so-called Iranians joining forces, the BRICS nations. All right, they're all taking this proverb and basically calling out the so-called white man in the West, all right, beginning with the Americans, for their abuse of power. And what Jeffrey Sachs said is what everybody already knows outside of America, is that this is a nation that is ruled through violence, that the nation itself is a violent nation, all right, who has subjugated and committed attempted genocide on 2 occasions, all right, to become an empire. And in Babylon the Great, which is America, we're taught lies. We're taught to look at the history of America as a good thing for the world. But in reality, it's an empire that has ruled and maintained power through violence. All right. And now we're at a point in so-called American history where the super rich and the elite so-called white man is stealing from the common so-called white man. And they can no longer use you better than so-called blacks anymore, because the average so-called white man, his standard of living may be a little bit better than Jake, but not by much. During Jim Crow, the average so-called white man had a certain privilege that the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans didn't have. But now that is destroyed. That is gone. And now you have a lot of Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who live better than the average so-called white man. So we're witnessing classism in the midst of a nation built on so-called racism. All right. And this goes back to prophecy. All right. The scriptures talk about Esau ruling and maintaining his power by the sword, but it also talks about a hate that Esau would have for Jacob. And that hate is seen, all right, with the so-called white man. We saw it with chattel slavery. We saw it with Jim Crow. All right. We saw it with the civil rights movement. And you see it today. Esau justifying his violence and oppression. All right. Which shows his hate. All right. Let's go to this. Let's go to this real quick. This is Ezekiel 35. And I'll start at 2. It says, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it, and say unto it, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out mine hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. Now let's go to the blue letter, because when you deal with Mount Seir, it's talking about Esau. All right. And I'm going to just go to Seir. All right, here we go. It says Seir. All right, it says hairy or shaggy, proper masculine noun, patriarch of the Horites, the inhabitants of Edom, before the descendants of Esau, Edom. Here's the point. Proper noun with reference to territory, the land of Edom, south of the Dead Sea. All right. Now, keep in mind, in Genesis, we read about Esau hating Jacob. That didn't stop with the man Esau and the man Jacob. That perpetual hatred would be seen through their descendants. All right. Now let's go back to Ezekiel 35, and we're going to jump down to verse 3 again. It says, and say unto it, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out mine hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord God, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Sith thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. So this is Esau, Edom, being described as a bloodthirsty nation. And we see that just because it's organized violence, all right, doesn't make it, how shall I say this, doesn't make it less criminal. Doesn't make it less wicked. All right, Esau has ruled through violence and wickedness. And just because he's highly organized, it doesn't mean that it's not wicked. And the Lord is saying, because blood is as nothing to the so-called white man, all right, blood is going to pursue him. And it starts with Esau being made bare or exposed. And the narrative of the so-called white man in America, all right, in the West, that what they've done to other nations of people has been a good thing for those nations. That narrative is beginning to be destroyed. And instead of the Superman narrative, the world is starting to realize that the so-called white man is truly Homelander. He's not a hero. It's a bloodthirsty, violent nation of people who are extremely organized and have justified their hate with deceit, as the scripture said that they would. Now let's continue in Habakkuk. And I'll end it with this, because you got to realize, according to prophecy, if you're going to deal with the Bible, you have to deal with all of it according to prophecy. And according to prophecy, Esau is a very important part of prophecy, because Esau's rulership would mark the end. It would mark the return of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. When you go to Isaiah 63, all right, verse 1 reads, it says, Who is this that cometh from Edom, with dyed garments from Bozrah? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. And this is why the one they ignorantly call Jesus is also known as the Redeemer. This is describing his return. All right, that he would return to a world ruled by Edom. All right, and even the scholars, some of the scholars, I'll say it that way, recognize that this is referencing the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Because where do you see the sprinkled garments in red? You see that in Revelation, the 19th chapter. All right, and we're going to go to that now. All right, this is Revelation 19. And I'll start at verse 12. I'll start at 11. And it reads, And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. So this, when you go to Isaiah 63, it's describing the same vesture dipped in blood. All right. Now, David Guzik, as much as he does go off, all right, he got this right. All right, because he identified who this was talking about. All right, this is, let me jump down to the point. All right, so this is his commentary on verse 2 through 6. It says, Why is your apparel red? The prophet asked why the garment of the Lord is red, and the Lord answers, I have trodden the winepress alone, their blood is sprinkled upon my garments. This promise is fulfilled when Jesus, quotation marks, returns to the earth, and this passage is clearly behind passages like Revelation 19, 13, and 15, which we just read. And the reason I'm bringing this out is because knowing this, according to prophecy, it's extremely important to identify who Esau, Edom is in the earth. And as the scriptures say, the Lord would make their tongue to fall upon themselves. And that's exactly what we see with Jeffrey Sachs, who could be an Israelite. I mean, he could be a Jake, but you have a lot of whistleblowers out there who are starting to call out the crimes of the so-called white man. All right, particularly those in the West. All right, and this is why the prophets are so important, because when you understand the scriptures, you understand that it's not just the Americans. All right, the so-called white man as a nation of people have dominion right now, and is seen with the Americans being the spearhead. But really, this is a global empire, and it's ruled by the so-called white man. That's why it's set up to protect the interests of the elite white man at this point. But it used to be set up to protect the interests of the common white man, as well as the elites. And now the disenchanted so-called white men are starting to call out their own kingdom. All right, this is Psalms chapter 64 and verse 8, and it reads, So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. And this is why you notice that other Edomite, the moderator, had to basically calm Jeffrey Sachs down, because, you know, it's shameful spewing is being spilt on the glory of the so-called white man, who has justified his violence through deceit. And now that deceit is being destroyed with truth. All right, this is Habakkuk 2 and 16. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. And that's exactly what we see. All right, with a kingdom built on lies, the truth is the ultimate enemy. All right, this is 2 Esdras 6 and 27. For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth which hath been so long without fruit shall be declared. So with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the